always thought I'd feel it somehow. That moment when your life splits into before and after. A tremor in the ground, maybe, or storm clouds gathering. Instead, I was just trying to reset my husband's tablet because he'd forgotten his password again. Funny how destruction can hide in such mundane moments. My name is Fiona, and until yesterday, I was proud to be the woman behind Killian Tech's success, the quiet force who gave up her own startup dreams to help build someone else's empire. 15 years of marriage, 14 years of coding until my eyes burned, and countless nights of telling myself it was worth it because we were building something together. "Hey, Fee!" Killian's voice echoed from downstairs. "Have you figured out that tablet thing yet?" "Almost done," I called back, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. That's when I saw it, the email notification that popped up mid-reset. From Amber Quinn. Subject: Tonight? I shouldn't have opened it, but 15 years of marriage earned me that right, didn't it? "Can't wait to see you again. Last night was incredible. Same hotel?" My hands didn't shake. My breath didn't catch. I just sat there, staring at those words while my world rearranged itself into something uglier. "Fiona." Killian appeared in the doorway, all casual charm in his designer sweater. "Everything okay?" I looked up at him, this man I'd given everything to, and smiled. "Just finished. All set." He grabbed the tablet, kissing my forehead. "You're the best, babe. Always fixing my messes." "That's me," I said. "The fixer." Later that night, over the dinner I'd cooked, because of course I had, I watched him lie. "Big presentation tomorrow," he said, checking his phone. "Might be a late one. With the Singapore investors?" I asked, knowing there were no investors. "Yeah, exactly." He didn't even look up. "Amber's got all the paperwork ready." I bet she does, I thought. "Remember when we started?" I said suddenly. "Those all-nighters in that tiny apartment, coding the first version of Killian Tech's platform?" Now he looked up, smiling that smile that used to make my heart skip. "You were amazing. Still are." "I wrote most of that code," I said quietly. "And you got credit for it," he replied, slightly sharp now. "Your name's on all the patents." "Under yours," he sighed. "Come on, Fee. Not this again. We agreed. I'm the face, you're the brain. It works better this way." I nodded, pushing away my plate. "You're right. It works perfectly." After he left, kissing me goodbye with lips that had probably kissed her hours earlier, I went to my home office, the space I'd carved out for myself, filled with monitors and the gentle hum of servers. My sanctuary. Opening my laptop, I created a new folder, named it Plan B, because even now, I couldn't be dramatic about it. Inside, I started a document. At the top, I typed, "Things Killian doesn't know." 1. I never removed my admin access to company servers. 2. I still have every email from the last 14 years. 3. I installed cameras in his office last year when he started working late. 4. The Singapore investors called me yesterday to reschedule next week's meeting. My phone buzzed. A text from Killian's sister, Sylvia. "Don't forget the board meeting tomorrow. Try to wear something professional," I added to my list. 5. Sylvia's about to learn why the quiet ones are dangerous. The cursor blinked at me, waiting. In the silence of my office, surrounded by the technology that had built his dreams and buried mine, I felt something shift. Not anger. Anger burns fast and leaves you empty. This was colder, cleaner. I opened another window and began to code. Not for Killian Tech this time. For me. For every woman who's ever been told to be quiet, be supportive, be invisible. The screen's blue light painted my face as I worked, and I smiled, because Killian forgot the most important thing about me. I'm not just good at fixing messes. I'm better at making them. The next morning, I walked into Killian Tech's headquarters like nothing had changed, smiled at security, nodded to the dev team, ignored how Amber's desk was suspiciously empty at 9 a.m. "Morning, Mrs. E." Our legal counsel, Shiloh, caught up with me in the elevator. "Hey, weird question. Did you authorize those contractor payments last quarter? The ones for the offshore consulting?" I kept my face neutral. "No, that would have been Killian or Sylvia. Why?" "Just irregularities." She shifted uncomfortably. "Probably nothing. You know how those interns mess up the paperwork." Interesting. I made a mental note to add offshore payments to my growing list of breadcrumbs. The board meeting was exactly what you'd expect. Men in expensive suits talking over each other, while Sylvia preened in her Chanel blazer. I sat quietly, taking notes on my laptop. But I wasn't recording minutes. I was tracking every time Killian glanced at his phone, every time he mentioned late meetings for next week. "Fiona," Sylvia's voice cut through my thoughts. "Perhaps you could get us some coffee, since you're not contributing much else." The room went awkwardly quiet. I looked up, smiled. "Of course. Right after you explained those consulting payments to Mumbai that somehow ended up in a Cayman Islands account." Sylvia's face went white. Killian's head snapped up. "I'm sorry," I continued sweetly. "Was that not on today's agenda?" "Meeting adjourned," Killian announced quickly. "Fiona, a word?" In his office, he paced while I sat calmly. "What the hell was that about? Just keeping things transparent?" I said. "Isn't that what you always say? Transparency builds trust." He ran his hands through his hair. "You can't just throw accusations around." "They're not accusations if they're true." His phone buzzed. I saw Amber's name flash on the screen before he quickly turned it over. "I need to handle something," he muttered. "We'll discuss this later." "Of course," I smiled. "Say hi to the Singapore investors." After work, I did something I hadn't done in 6 years. I drove to my sister Paige's apartment. She opened the door and just stared. "Well," she finally said, "you must be desperate." "Can I come in?" Her place was smaller than I remembered, cluttered with half-finished art projects. We hadn't spoken since she'd asked for startup money, and I'd said no, choosing to fund Killian's dreams instead. "He's cheating," I said, without preamble. Paige snorted. "Shocked! Oh, wait! No, I'm not! I told you he was a snake." "I need your help." "Now you need my help?" She laughed bitterly. "After ghosting me for 6 years." "I'm starting something new," I said. "Something big, and I need someone who knows how to make ugly truths look beautiful." That got her attention. Paige was always the creative one, the storyteller. "What's in it for me?" 15% stake in my new company, plus the satisfaction of watching Killian burn. She studied me for a long moment. "You've changed." "No," I said. "I just stopped pretending." Back home, I found an email from Shiloh marked urgent. Inside was a bank statement, an account under Amber's name holding over $400,000. My phone rang. Private number. "Hello?" "Mrs. Erickson!" A man's voice. "This is Jean Morris from the board. We need to talk about some concerning transactions." "I'm listening." "Not over the phone. Tomorrow, 8 a.m., Carter's Cafe. Come alone." I hung up and opened my laptop, adding to my plan. Each piece was falling into place. The money trail, the board's suspicions, Paige's artistic touch for the final reveal. My phone buzzed again. Killian. Working late? Don't wait up. I texted back. No problem. Love you. Then I opened my email and started composing a message to every tech journalist in my contact list. Interested in a story about Silicon Valley's golden boy and $400,000 in missing company funds? Because here's the thing about revenge. It's not about acting fast. It's about acting right. And I had 15 years of acting experience to put to good use. I hit send and waited for the dominoes to start falling. Carter's cafe was empty at 8 a.m. except for Gene Morris, looking grave over his untouched coffee. I slid into the booth across from him, setting my own evidence folder on the table. Before you start, I said, I have something you should see. His eyes widened as I showed him the surveillance footage from Killian's office. Audio crystal clear. Just transfer it through the shell company. No one checks those accounts anyway. Jesus, Gene muttered. How long have you known? Long enough to build a case, but I need the board's support. Sylvia will fight this. I smiled. Sylvia's part of the problem. I pulled out more documents, the NDAs, the fake consultancy fees. She's been covering for them. Them? Killian and Amber? His secretary? I watched recognition dawn on his face. The money wasn't just about greed. It was hush money. Back at the office, I had a surprise waiting for me. Hayden McGregor, my old rival from tech school, now a successful creative director. Fiona, he grinned. Been a while. What are you doing here? Heard you might be starting something new. He followed me into my office. Thought I'd offer my services before someone else snatches them up. I closed the door. How did you... Please, every tech journalist in the Valley got your email. They're just waiting for the green light. I studied him. Hayden and I had history. Competitive, complicated history. But he was brilliant, and more importantly, he hated Killian. 30% stake, I offered. If you help me build something that'll make Killian Tech obsolete. Done. He didn't even hesitate. But we do this right. No shortcuts. Wouldn't dream of it. The elevator dinged, and Amber walked in. She looked perfect as always, but there was something tight around her eyes. Fiona, she said sweetly, can we talk? I nodded to Hayden, who left with a warning glance. Amber closed the door. You don't have to fake it, she said. He's not worth being bitter over. I kept my face neutral. I'm not sure what you mean. The board meetings, the late nights, just let him go. She leaned forward. Sometimes marriages just end, like your last job ended, I asked innocently. The one where $400,000 mysteriously appeared in your account? She went very still. That's not... Here's what's going to happen, I cut in. You're going to go back to your desk. You're going to keep playing your part. And when everything falls apart, you're going to remember this conversation. Are you threatening me? No. I smiled. I'm promising you something. Now get out of my office. That evening, I met Paige at her studio. She'd been working on what I'd asked for, a presentation for the upcoming anniversary gala. It's beautiful, I said, watching the video montage. No one will see it coming. That's the point. She clicked through more slides. But are you sure about this? Once it's done? I'm sure. My phone buzzed. Sylvia calling. I ignored it. Then a text. We need to talk about the board meeting, now. I drove to her house, a modernist mansion that screamed new money. She was waiting in her home office. Whatever you think you know, she started. I know everything, I interrupted. The money, the affair, the NDAs you made Amber sign. She paled. How? Because I'm not just the helper, Sylvia. I built this company while you and Killian played power games. I stood up. And now I'm going to tear it down. He's my brother, and he's my husband. Was my husband. I headed for the door. You might want to hire a lawyer. At home, I found Killian waiting. Where were you? Working late? I echoed his favourite excuse. Big presentation coming up. The anniversary gala? He smiled, pulling me close. I can't wait to tell everyone how much you mean to me. I let him hold me, remembering when his touch didn't make my skin crawl. It'll be unforgettable, I promised. Later, I added one final file to my collection. Sylvia's signature on Amber's NDAs. The last piece of evidence that would bring it all crashing down. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. Sometimes it's served in front of everyone you know, with a spotlight and a microphone. And I was just getting started. 3 days before the gala, I stood in my office practicing my speech when Hayden walked in with a stack of papers. You need to see this, he said, spreading them across my desk. Remember that patent Killian claimed credit for in 2018, the one that made Killian Tech famous? I picked up the documents. The adaptive learning algorithm. Look at the original code signature. There it was. My digital fingerprint buried in lines of code I'd written at 3 a.m., fueled by coffee and determination. Code that Killian had presented as his own breakthrough. That's not all, Hayden continued. I found 6 more instances where he took your work and put his name on it? I finished. I know. I kept records. Why didn't you say anything? Because I was stupid in love. I gathered the papers. But now they're evidence. My phone buzzed. Page. Turn on CNBC now. I flipped on the office TV. The headline scrolled, Killian Tech IPO announcement, valued at $4.2 billion. Perfect timing, I muttered. What do you mean? Hayden asked. The higher they rise. I smiled. Call the team. We need to move faster. That afternoon, I had lunch with Luke Sanders, the tech journalist Paige had connected me with. We met at a quiet restaurant off the main strip. Everything you've shown me, he said. It's explosive. But why now? Why not when it happened? Because now I have proof. I slid him a USB drive. And because sometimes you have to lose everything to realize what you're capable of. The story drops the morning after the gala? Not a minute sooner. Back at the office, Amber cornered me in the bathroom. Whatever you're planning, she hissed, think about what you're risking. I reapplied my lipstick calmly. Like you thought about what you were risking when you slept with my husband. He loves me. He loves what you represent. Youth, admiration, someone who doesn't know all his lies yet. I turned to face her. Did he promise to leave me? Her silence was answer enough. The difference between us, I continued, is that I never needed his promises. I built this company, and I can tear it down. That night, Killian was unusually attentive. Let's practice our speech for the gala, he suggested over dinner. You mean your speech? Our speech, he insisted. I want everyone to know how much you've contributed. I watched him rehearse, mentioning my support and dedication, while carefully avoiding any mention of my actual work. The perfect performance from a man who'd built his career on taking credit for other people's genius. My phone lit up with a text from Jean. Board emergency meeting tomorrow. They found the offshore accounts. Everything okay? Killian asked. Perfect. I smiled. Just perfect. The next morning, I arrived early to find Sylvia already in the boardroom, face ashen. Did you do this? She demanded. Do what? The audit. They're looking at everything. The accounts, the patents, the... Careful, I warned. You don't want to admit to knowing about things you shouldn't know about. The board members filed in, Jean leading them. Killian arrived last, looking confused until he saw the stack of financial reports. Before we begin, Jean announced, we need to discuss some irregularities. This is ridiculous, Killian laughed. We're days away from our IPO. Exactly why we need to address this now, Jean replied. Fiona, since you handled most of our technical documentation, perhaps you could explain these patent discrepancies. I stood up, enjoying how Killian's smile faltered. Actually, I have a presentation prepared. For the next hour, I walked them through everything, except the affair. That was for the gala. By the end, Sylvia was texting furiously under the table, probably to her lawyer. This is a witch hunt, Killian declared. Fiona's just upset about... He caught himself. About what? Jean pressed. Nothing, I said sweetly. Everything's fine. Let's save the real drama for the anniversary celebration. Walking out, Hayden caught up with me. You realize there's no going back after this? I thought about all the nights I'd dimmed my own light to let Killian shine, about the dreams I'd buried and the dignity I'd swallowed. Good, I said, because I'm done going backward. The gala ballroom sparkled with success and champagne. I'd chosen a red dress, not subtle, but then, again, tonight wasn't about subtlety. Killian's eyes widened when he saw me. You look... dangerous, I suggested. He laughed nervously. I was going to say beautiful. Across the room, Amber wore black, appropriate for what was coming. She kept glancing at her phone, probably wondering why Killian hadn't texted her all day. Sylvia worked the crowd in ice blue Versace, her smile brittle as she watched me. Mrs. Erickson, a photographer approached. Could we get a photo of the power couple? Killian's arm slid around my waist. Of course, honey, smile for the last... for the camera. I caught that slip. He knew something was wrong but couldn't quite piece it together. Jean Morris appeared with his wife. Fiona, you look radiant. Ready for the big speech? Born ready, I replied, watching Killian's face. The evening progressed like a well-choreographed dance. Dinner, speeches from board members, congratulations on the upcoming IPO. I sat through it all, sipping water while others got drunk on victory. Finally, Killian took the stage. 15 years ago, he began, I had a dream and a laptop. But more importantly, I had Fiona. He gestured to me. My backbone, my support, my ever-patient wife who never asked for credit. The crowd awed. I caught Hayden's eye across the room. He nodded. Everything was ready. Fiona, Killian continued, has been the silent partner in every success, the wind beneath my wings. Actually, I stood up, cutting him off. I'd like to say something. Silence fell. This wasn't in the program. I walked to the stage, heels clicking on hardwood. 15 years is a long time, I said, taking the microphone. Long enough to build an empire. Long enough to lose yourself. Long enough to plan. Honey? Killian's voice held a warning. I prepared a little video, I continued, a memory reel, if you will, of all the moments that made Killian Tech what it is today. Before anyone could object, the lights dimmed. The giant screen behind us flickered to life. It started innocently enough. Old photos, early company meetings. Then came the code screenshots, each bearing my signature. Patents with my name scratched out. Emails discussing how to reassign credit. There must be some mistake. Killian tried to grab the microphone. I held firm. No mistakes. Not anymore. The video shifted to security footage. Killian and Amber in his office, discussing more than business. Financial records showing the money trail. Sylvia's signature on NDAs. Every betrayal, every lie, projected 20 feet high. You should really leave Fiona, Killian's voice echoed through the speakers. She's just efficient. You're passionate. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Amber bolted for the door. Sylvia's champagne glass shattered on the floor. Turn it off! Killian lunged for the controls. Can't, I said calmly. It's streaming live, to everyone, including the SEC. The room erupted in chaos. Board members huddled in corners, phones out. Journalists who'd been invited to cover the celebration were suddenly covering something very different. You've destroyed everything, Killian hissed. No, I corrected him. I built everything. You just took the credit. Jean Morris was already calling an emergency board meeting. Lawyers were being summoned. In the midst of it all, I stood perfectly still, watching 15 years of lies unravel in 15 minutes. Mrs. Erickson! Reporters shouted. Did you plan this? What about the IPO? Will you press charges? I lifted the microphone one last time. No questions tonight, but tomorrow I'm launching a new company, one built on truth, not theft, and I'd love to tell you all about it. Walking off stage, I passed Amber crying in a corner, Sylvia arguing with security, and a dozen slack-jawed executives who'd just watched their stock options implode. Hayden met me at the exit, holding my coat. That, he said, was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It's not over, I warned him. I know. He smiled. That's what makes it exciting. Outside, the night air felt clean and sharp. My phone was already blowing up with messages, interview requests, investment offers. But there was only one message I cared about. From Paige. Holy shit, sis! You actually did it! Now what? I texted back. Now we build something better. Because revenge isn't just about destroying what hurt you. It's about creating something stronger from the ashes. I knew Killian would be waiting at home. What I didn't expect was the mess. Shattered pictures, overturned furniture, my laptop smashed on the floor. Feel better? I asked, flicking on the lights. He sat in my office chair, tie loose, looking wrecked. You've ruined me! You ruined yourself. I just provided the evidence. 15 years, he said, voice breaking. 15 years of marriage and you do this? In public? Funny. That's exactly how long you've been taking credit for my work. I stepped over a broken frame. How long were you sleeping with Amber? That's not 2 years, 3, long enough to set up offshore accounts for her? He stood up suddenly. You think you're so clever? You think you can just walk away and start your own company? Watch me. I'll fight you, he snarled. Every investor, every contract. I'll tell them you're unstable, vindictive. With what proof? I pulled out my phone, started recording. The security cameras you're about to threaten me in front of, or the ones catching you destroying my property right now?" He deflated slightly, looking around at the chaos he'd created. "I loved you, Fiona." "No, you loved that I made you look good." My phone buzzed. Sylvia calling again. I answered on speaker. "You stupid bitch!" She spat. "The board's suspending us both pending investigation. Our stock is tanking. Are you happy?" "Ecstatic," I replied. "How's that law firm working out? The one you kept on retainer to handle Amber's NDAs?" Silence. Then, "We can fix this. Make a joint statement. Say it was a misunderstanding." "Goodbye, Sylvia." Killian grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. "Where are you going?" "To my hotel. My lawyers will contact you about the divorce." "Divorce?" He laughed desperately. "Over one mistake? One?" I pulled up the video on my phone, him and Amber in his office. "Let's count them, shall we? The affairs, the stolen patents, the embezzlement." "Stop. The lies to the board, the shell companies. Oh, and my personal favorite. Telling investors I was just the secretary while using my code to build your empire." He released my arm. "I made you rich." "No," I corrected him. "I made us rich. And now I'm going to make myself richer." My phone buzzed again. Luke Sanders. "Story's going viral. Every major tech site's picking it up. CNN wants an interview." "Don't do this," Killian pleaded. "We can work it out." I looked at him. Really looked at him. The man I'd loved, supported, believed in. He seemed smaller somehow, without all the lies to prop him up. "The SEC will be here tomorrow," I said quietly. "And the FBI. Fraud across state lines is a federal crime." "You'd send me to prison. You sent yourself to prison. I just exposed the trail." I headed for the door, but his voice stopped me. "What about Amber?" I turned back. "What about her? Did she know you were planning this?" "No, but she knew what she was doing when she signed Sylvia's NDA, when she took your money, when she slept with my husband." I smiled coldly. Actions have consequences. Outside, Hayden was waiting in his car. "You okay?" "No," I admitted, sliding into the passenger seat. "But I will be. Paige called. She's set up the new office space. We can start moving in tomorrow." My phone lit up with notifications. Sheth Killian tech scandal was trending. The stock had dropped 60% in after-hours trading. Jean Morris had called an emergency shareholder meeting for morning. "You know what the best part is?" I said as we drove away. He really thought I'd just fade away, that I'd stay quiet, stay small, stay in my place. His mistake. One of many. At the hotel, I found a package waiting, my old laptop from our first year of marriage. Inside was every piece of code I'd written, every idea I'd given away, every dream I'd set aside. "Ready to build something real?" Hayden asked. I opened the laptop, fingers finding the familiar keys. "Ready to build something mine." Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth. It's creating something so magnificent that the lies can't touch you anymore. And I was just getting started. 6 weeks after the gala, I sat in my new office watching Killian's arrest on live TV. He didn't look at the cameras as they led him out in handcuffs, but Sylvia did. Her perfect makeup couldn't hide the fury in her eyes. "Federal agents arrested tech mogul Killian Erickson today on charges of fraud and embezzlement," the reporter announced. "Sources say the investigation was triggered by evidence provided by his wife." "Ex-wife," I corrected, just as Paige walked in. "You're trending again," she said, dropping a stack of magazines on my desk. My face was on all of them. Tech's new queen, the woman behind the code, Silicon Valley's greatest revenge. "Any word from Amber?" I asked. Disappeared. Apparently she cleaned out her account and flew to Singapore. Paige grinned. Guess that hush money came in handy. My new office at Eve Court took up the top floor of a downtown high-rise. Through the glass walls, I could see dozens of developers, many of them women who'd left Killian Tech after my revelation, building something honest for a change. Hayden knocked on my door. "The investors are here." I followed him to the conference room where 5 venture capitalists waited, the same ones who'd dismissed my original startup idea 15 years ago. "Gentlemen," I smiled, "ready to hear about something revolutionary?" 2 hours later, we had $50 million in Series A funding. No strings, no male co-founder required, no suggestions about getting a more experienced CEO. "That was impressive," Hayden said after they left. "You've changed." "No," I corrected him. "I've just stopped apologizing for who I am." My phone rang. Sonia, Killian's mother. I almost declined, but remembered how she'd always treated me like a daughter. "I'm at your office," she said. "Can we talk?" I found her in the lobby, elegant as always, but looking tired. She hugged me tight. "I should have told you," she said, "about Killian's father." "What about him?" "He did the same thing. Took credit for my research, married his secretary, left me with nothing." She squeezed my hand. "But you ended the cycle. You fought back." "Did you know? About Killian and Amber?" I suspected. "But I thought—" She sighed. "I thought if I warned you, you'd just suffer in silence like I did." Back in my office, I found an email from Jean Morris. The board had voted to appoint a new CEO at Killian Tech. They wanted to distance themselves from recent controversies. "They're offering to buy your remaining shares," Hayden noted, reading over my shoulder. "That's a lot of zeros. Good. We can use it to fund female-led startups." I turned to him. "Speaking of which, dinner tonight? To discuss strategy, of course." He smiled. That same smile that used to make my heart race in college before Killian came along. "Just strategy?" "We'll see." Later that evening, over wine and pasta, Hayden and I talked about everything but business, about missed opportunities, about timing, about second chances. "I always wondered," he said, "why you chose him over—" "Over you?" I finished. "Because I thought I needed someone to complete me. Turns out I needed someone to complement me." "And now?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Congratulations on your success. Karma's a bitch. Amber," I muttered. "She can't hurt you anymore," Hayden said. "I know, but she's right about karma." I raised my glass. "To karma." "To karma," he echoed, "and to new beginnings." Walking home that night, I passed Killian Tech's building. The sign was already being changed, erasing the last trace of the man who'd tried to erase me. My phone lit up with another message, this time from Paige. "CNN tomorrow at 9. Ready to tell your story?" I texted back. Ready to tell our story. The real one. Because that's the thing about revenge. It's not just about making someone pay. It's about reclaiming your narrative, your power, your truth. And as I looked up at the stars over Silicon Valley, I realized something. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's becoming exactly who you were always meant to be. The morning of my keynote speech at the Women in Tech Summit, I found a letter in my office. No return address, just expensive paper and familiar handwriting. "Dear Fiona," it began. "By now you've probably heard I took a plea deal. 5 years, minimum security. Sylvia got 3. We lost everything, just like you wanted. But remember, the men you burn rise again sometimes. With a smile. Kay. Threatening you from prison." Hayden appeared in my doorway. Classy. I held up the letter. Want to know what's funny? He still thinks this was about him. The auditorium was packed, standing room only. In the front row, I spotted Paige with our mother, Sonia, beside them. Jean Morris sat with several board members who'd jumped ship from Killian Tech to join Eve Corps. "Ready?" Hayden squeezed my hand. I stepped onto the stage to thunderous applause. The teleprompter blinked with my prepared speech, but I ignored it. "Everyone expects me to talk about revenge," I began. "About how I exposed my husband's fraud and built a billion-dollar company from the ashes of his empire. It's a great story. But it's not the real story." The audience went quiet. "The real story is about all the women who came forward after the gala, the ones who'd been silenced, sidelined, or stolen from, not just at Killian Tech, but everywhere in this industry." I clicked to a slide showing our latest project, a platform connecting female developers with venture funding. "Yesterday, we funded our 100th startup through this initiative. Next week, we're launching free coding camps for girls in underserved communities, because success isn't just about getting even, it's about changing the game." Movement at the back caught my eye. Amber stood there, looking uncertain. Our eyes met, and I made a decision. "Even the women who hurt us," I continued, "were playing by rules they didn't write. So today, I'm announcing a mentorship program for women transitioning from support roles to leadership positions." Amber's eyes widened. She understood the olive branch for what it was. Because the best revenge isn't destruction, it's creation. It's building something so magnificent that the lies can't touch it anymore. After the speech, Amber approached me. "I don't deserve your help." "No," I agreed. "But other women deserve a chance to avoid our mistakes." She nodded and slipped away. I wouldn't see her again, but I'd hear about her starting a small consulting firm in Seattle. Sometimes karma works in mysterious ways. Hayden found me in the green room. "That wasn't the speech we practiced." "I'm done practicing," I said. "Done pretending. Done being anything but exactly who I am." He kissed me then, not the careful kiss of new beginnings, but the confident kiss of two people who'd finally found their timing. My phone buzzed. A news alert. Killian Tech was being acquired, its remaining assets absorbed by larger firms. The empire Killian built on stolen dreams was officially dead. "Feeling vindicated?" Paige asked, joining us. "No," I replied honestly. "Feeling free." That evening, I sat in my office looking at the city lights. On my desk, next to Killian's letter, lay the contract for our newest acquisition, the startup I'd walked away from 15 years ago to support his dreams. I signed it, reclaiming that piece of my past, then opened my laptop to code. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because creating something real was always more satisfying than destroying something false. Hayden appeared with coffee. "Coming home soon?" Home. Not the mansion Killian bought to impress investors, but the loft we'd found together, filled with Paige's art and my computers, and actual, honest love. "Just finishing something," I said, typing the last lines of code, my signature, unhidden this time, right where it belonged. Because that's the thing about endings. They're really just beginnings in disguise. And this beginning? It was all mine. I hit save and stood up, ready to walk into whatever came next. Not as someone's wife or secret weapon or cautionary tale. Just as me. Finally, gloriously, unapologetically me. And that was the sweetest revenge of all,